hundreds of Iranians risking their lives to protest the country's ultra-conservative dress code for women and much more. They were sparked by the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini while she was in the custody of Iran's notorious morality police. She was detained for the crime of showing her hair in public. In a brave show of defiance, women in Iran's capital of Tehran are now removing their state-mandated hijabs.
The scope of these protests, John, are rare, but also unprecedented in their feminist nature, where you're seeing women at the forefront of these protests, leading these protests, taking to the streets, removing their headscarves, setting up bonfires, burning their headscarves, chanting death to the dictator in reference to the supreme leader.
Yeah, women in Iran. Women in Iran who all have stories of being detained or harassed by the morality police are fighting back, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. Think about it. You're going to have a bunch of random people walking around Iran telling women what to do with their own bodies? Huh? In America, you have to be on the Supreme Court to do that. And what the women of Iran are doing is inspiring people all over the world. I mean, you saw them. They're chanting death to the dictator in front of the dictator's troops. That is the definition of bravery, like actual bravery. Real bravery. Yeah. Not like the way we use it here, like when a musician tries acting. Oh, this was a real risk for you. And that bravery has been contagious because in the past week, these protests have gotten bigger and angrier. And in response, the Iranian government is trying to control the flow of information by shutting down access to apps like WhatsApp and Instagram. But this is something I wonder with these governments sometimes. Do they realize that people protested before social media, all right? Yeah, like civil rights leaders didn't have Facebook. All right? Nelson Mandela wasn't on TikTok like, yo, it's your boy Nelson, straight up kicking it in prison. Now, if we had more time, we could talk about how this protest follows on the heels of a series of events that has turned Iran into a powder keg. The government's COVID response was terrible. Water mismanagement has caused massive droughts. The government has brutally suppressed labor protests. And on top of all of that, the United States has sanctioned Iran so badly that people can barely afford medicine. So this protest and this moment in time has many people in Iran wondering if this is going to be a tipping point. But we don't have the time to cover all of that because it turns out Iran's government is not the only one that's feeling the heat.
This morning, more than 1,000 Russian protesters detained by Russian police after taking to the streets. Young men chanting, "I don't want to die for Putin." Mothers screaming, "Send Putin to the trenches, let our children live." This after President Putin suddenly announcing he would call up 300,000 men for military service after his massive losses in Ukraine.
Other Russians are fleeing the country. Flights from Moscow to all visa-free destinations selling out quickly. There are also long lines of cars heading to Finland, which has open borders.
Yeah, that's right. After Russia's angriest elf announced that he was going to be drafting 300,000 people into his war in Ukraine, the Russian people are trying everything to get out of the country, which I totally get. I get it. I mean, think about it. This guy is fighting a war for no reason. He made it up. It's like when your friend gets drunk and then tries to get you involved in a fight that they started. He's like, come on, bro, he spilled his shirt all over my beer. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to Uber home. And remember, the Russians don't have Uber, so they're trying every other way to get out. You know, any way they can. Some are flying out. Others are driving cross-border. Some are even hitting up Ron DeSantis, pretending to be Venezuelans. Yes, my name is Domingo. We fly Martha's Vineyard, yes? And look, if we had more time, we could talk about whether the resistance to Putin's draft could spur more opposition to the war itself. Or we could talk about how Putin needing to have a draft undermines everything he set up until now. Because remember, he's always insisted that this wasn't even a real war. So what do you need 300,000 more soldiers for, huh? Does he need help moving that giant table? What is it?